Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning. My name is Scott Macmillan. I'm the CEO and Managing Director of Invictus Energy. And thank you for attending this briefing regarding our capital raise that we've conducted and also to share with you the forward plan of what's coming up. So today's going to be a brief recap of where we've been from the post-Mukuyu discovery, some of the things that have happened in the interim, and then also what the forward plan is for the company, how the funds are going to be used, and what our plan is for this coming year and beyond. So firstly, post the Mukuyu discovery, so I'll just maybe have a quick summary of the company for those who are unfamiliar with Invictus and maybe hearing about the company for the first time. We are an oil and gas company focused on Africa. We have been a trailblazing explorer, led the discovery of one gas field in two horizons in Zimbabwe, in the Cabora Bassa Basin, with a brand new discovery called Mukuyu, very substantial, multi-TCF, and something that we have been very pleased to have been the first to do it in the country ever. This has been an enormous effort from our team. And post the discovery, we've had a bit of a quiet period and a hiatus between activity. The major part of that was settling a fiscal agreement with government that would govern both the legal and the fiscal terms of this project going forward for multi-decades. So very important to have a stable fiscal and legal framework that allows investors, primarily international lenders, to participate in the project and ensure that the company can develop it in confidence and also that the country gets a fair share of the returns. So that has been a major delay in us conducting our work program because we need to ensure that these conditions are set and stable. The desire to implement this and the delays have not been because of the company or the government of Zimbabwe. It's primarily been due to the external legal counsel that have been involved. I can't go into too much detail at this point, but it has been now finally settled. You would have seen the announcement that came out last week along with our ESIA that that's all been done and it is due to be signed this month. So we've now got the confidence to go forward with the project with this legal and fiscal framework that will be signed off this month. We have also resumed partnering discussions in February following the termination of the Holdings deal that we entered into last August. That was a good deal that we did. It was very unfortunate that we couldn't complete it. I'll go into a little bit more detail in that towards the end. But essentially, what Holdings intended to do was to take control of the company and in exchange for would have required a shareholder vote because it was going above 50%, and that we couldn't do because of the terms and conditions that they demanded, effectively trying to secure a shareholder votes against our assets. They wanted our assets. We couldn't do that from a legal perspective and have us secured against a shareholder vote. And some of the other demands that they placed on that. So we terminated the deal, and since then we've resumed partnering discussions in February. That has taken, now with a number of parties in the data room, that is progressing, and we have had a number that have been held up because of the conflict in the Gulf. We do have some potential Gulf partners that we're in discussions with, but we have others as well. And so this raise, we conducted $10 million to fund the Musuma 1 drilling, and effectively that was to ensure that now that we have the PPSA lined up for signing, and we've got partnering discussions ongoing, the raise was conducted so that we could meet our drilling window for this year and ensure that we had some activity this year to carry on with the project and not sit still for another season. So that allows us to conduct the preliminary works in the lead up to the drilling program, still have time to bring in a partner during the drilling preparation, and then continue moving forward with the project from there. So that's been the primary reason for the raise, to ensure that the project continues and that we can continue with our partnering activities in the background. Onto the Petroleum Production Sharing Agreement, the PPSA. It has been a long and drawn-out process, as we've are all familiar with. The execution in April, the final agreement was signed off by both parties earlier this month, and that was again after several rounds of frustration with the external counsel, inspired instructions from both ourselves and government on the final terms and having it signed off. So we're now through that process. They are no longer involved, and we've been given a commitment for timing for this PPSA to be signed off by the Minister of Finance this month. So again, we relay timelines that are provided to us by government. It's not us that are dictating the timelines or putting them in announcements. These are timelines that have agreed to by government, and that we relay to our shareholders via our ASX announcements. So, and sometimes other things happen. This is not the only thing going on in the country, particularly when we're dealing with the Ministry of Finance, a very important organ in government. They often have IMF meetings, they've got budgets, national budgets to do. So sometimes the timing gets in the way, but we've had a commitment to have it done in April now, finally. Secondly, and again, we've got tremendous support from the government. Everyone wants us to work. There's been a lot of press in the locally about the delays in the project, and particularly with the crisis that's going on in the Gulf, the lack of availability of energy in the country, and now the race for energy and electricity in the region with the critical minerals boom that is going on. This project has become front and center and a kind of cornerstone of positive development in the country. So the government is keen for us to get on with it. The Vice President will be conducting a visit to the project up to the well site and our supply base down in the valley in April as well. On to Musuma 1. So Musuma is a very exciting target. It's Westwood Energy, one of the kind of exploration analysts, has it as one of the key wells to watch in 2026. That is defined as either a play opener, which Musuma would be. It's a material target, 1.2 TCF and 77 million barrels of condensate. And we are planning to spud that in the second half of 2026. We are moving onto the eastern side of the basin, one, because we see Musuma as a very attractive target. It's got a beautiful seismic response, direct hydrocarbon indicators on the seismic response. It's a simpler well to drill, shallower, and much cheaper to drill than wells in Mukuyu. So an estimated gross cost of between $6 and $10 million US, so very cheap compared to Mukuyu, and that's gotten a lot cheaper than those wells because of a number of factors. So firstly, we, having drilled 2 wells in the basin and acquired 2 big seismic surveys, we now have a much better handle on the subsurface and the geology. We've got our well design now that we can design properly rather than having educated guesses, which we had to in the first 2 wells because we had uncalibrated seismic. We now know how to design the wells, where to put the casing strings, and the drilling performance that we can obtain when we drill these wells. We had huge improvements between Mukuyu 1 and Mukuyu 2 in terms of drilling days. It was the well design that's now had some refinement, which should see very, very rapid drilling and low cost drilling as well. So around about 14 days from spud until TD. The second thing is that from a service contract perspective, we've now had a few 2 campaigns in getting familiarized with the service providers. They see that there's long-term work in the basin, and they are bidding now more competitively than they were from when we had the first wells that were drilled. So 1, they're bidding more competitively. 2, with the activity that's going on in the region, particularly in Namibia, we have seen the service companies now set up service bases permanently in Namibia, which means that the vast majority of equipment is available there which means that we're not having to mobilize it from further afield, such as Angola, Gabon, Nigeria, and even beyond. So the lead times are shorter, the rentals are cheaper, and so it's resulted in much cheaper wells than we've had with Mukuyu. So a number of these things are now working in our factor. The well pad build and equipment mobilization will commence from early H2. We've got just a few more processes to conduct to secure supplies from the service contractors and just refine those and complete the contracts. And from there, we can be ready within a couple of months with mobilization. So we're looking at around about late Q3 at this stage. And again, that will depend on equipment availability for some items, particularly the cementing units. Those are the piece of equipment with the longest lead time. So very exciting well, and something that could open up a much greater play with on success. So if Musuma is successful, it could be part of a larger single enclosure encompassing both the Mopani and Mororo prospects, which would be bigger than those three combined and the numbers that we've put out previously for those other prospects. So post Musuma, we will then have an idea of which area in the basin that we should focus on, whether it's Mukuyu and the Central Fairway, or in the eastern margin where assuming Musuma is successful, we target that then for early commercialization and further appraisal around testing and getting on to an early pilot scheme and then building out from there. I think what's also been pleasing to see in that interim period, whilst we've been quiet, is that the gas market and demand has certainly increased over these last 2 years. So there is no shortage of a market to sell gas into. So whatever's discovered is going to be put away at a very, very good price and developed. So again, the having the fiscal terms in place, having the basis for the project now settled, that provides the lenders and the banks and development banks that we've been in discussions with over the last 2 years the confidence now to step in very, very quickly once we get going again. And it's nice to be now heading towards, after a relatively quiet period, market facing anyway, that we're going to be back into operations and getting back to it. So the team is excited. I hope our shareholders are too, us getting back to what we do best, which is operations and finding and discovering hydrocarbons. And then in the interim as well, I think what's been important is some of the new ventures work that we've been conducting, and that is continuing in the background whilst we are prepping and getting ready for Musuma. So from a new ventures perspective, we are targeting acquisitions of producing and near-term development fields. We have secured support from a major oil and gas trading company to provide acquisition finance for these potential assets. We're in discussions with a number of them, and again, I think looking back at the period with Al Mansour Holdings and the dealings that we've had across the continents, not only with governments, with national oil companies and private companies and some of the trading companies, we've maintained those relationships. We've built them and built a very, very strong reputation in how we've dealt with everyone. Everyone has been very keen to see us continue, and now that we have financial support, we've been able to kind of stay in some of those processes and some of the assets that we were negotiating with before, and now we've secured some financial backing to go and bring in new assets into the company, and that'll be done primarily with debt finance and also with prepayment facilities. So again, able to build the business based on those relationships that we've built and build out a nearer term producing asset base that will stand us in very good stead. And I think again, part of the silver lining that we've had with this deal termination with Al Mansour Holdings is rather than having a 10% stake in some of these new assets that we bring in, we'll have a 100% stake and have the finance behind us as well. So instead of doing, a sort of private equity type deal where we are effectively the sweat and the engine of everything and have a 10% stake, we're doing all the same amount of work but retaining all of the upside. So that is something that we're looking to do both in the near term and over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, depending on which transactions we're able to complete. So the team's working very hard, both on our primary project in Zimbabwe, but also in bringing in new business and really diversifying the company's asset base. I think also we don't want to have any lulls in activity like we've seen over the last 2 years, even though the team's been hard at work. And this will see us have then a multi-pronged approach to our business and operating in multiple jurisdictions and multiple types of assets. So we're looking forward to the next phase. It's going to be an exciting build-up, but once it starts, it'll happen all very quickly with Musuma and then in the new ventures side as well. So there were a couple of hands up. James.
Yeah, hi Scott, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good, thanks. It's good to hear your voice again. It's been a while, so I'm looking forward to all these exciting activities coming ahead. Just firstly, love to get your comments on the IVZOA option as they expire early June.
Sure. In what sense?
Yeah, just do you see them with the upcoming activities, with the PPSA and the funding and these acquisitions occurring? Obviously, what are your thoughts to the $50 million that could unlock and support IVZ with?
Yeah, look, from the IVZOAs, I think those are the 20-cent options. If those come in, obviously that means we've had a material increase in the value of the company. It's been done before. I think you see our share price react very, very well when we deliver good news and results. We've got a very responsive and liquid trading profile, I guess. So there's every chance, particularly if we get some of these milestones away in that time frame, then I wouldn't bet against it.
No worries. And in terms of the financing for Musuma and Mukuyu too, I believe, were you hoping to have that locked in prior to well-pad, activities, given that that's what the recent raise is for, or is that in that time frame of when everything's being mobilized to site?
Yeah, I don't think it particularly matters whether it's pre the pad construction or during mobilization. It's just ensuring that it happens. So the time now that we've got the funding to start this off, I think that's important to get this process underway. And the timing's neither here nor there. If it's a couple of months, we just need to ensure that we complete it.
So you have less of a locked in time for the drill, and it's more the variance of when funding comes in.
No, not as much. It's really dependent upon the long lead mobilization time, as I said, for some equipment, in particular the cementing unit.
Great. And sorry, one final question, just on the secured support from the trading company. Is that contingent on anything, or it's just finalizing the transactions?
Yeah, so we do it on a case-by-case basis with the transactions that they either bring to us or we bring to them. So those details will be kind of fully divulged once the first acquisition is entered into.
Great. Thank you. Cheers, mate.
Charlie.
Hi, Scott. Can you hear me okay? Oh,
Yes.
sorry. I was unmuted as well. Charlie, do you want to go first and I can jump in after? Or I can continue on. Hi, Scott. Milan here. Firstly, thank you for the detailed breakdown and informative updates. I think speaking for a lot of shareholders, PPSA has been an ongoing drama that we like to be concluded as soon as humanly possible. My question is specifically around the shift of terminology from imminent to scheduled in terms of the signing, and what has the government shared with you to give you that confidence to move forward with the drill? What's actually involved with the signing itself? Is the president securing a time in his diary which he will sign, or is it the minister who's going to be involved specifically within that signing?
No, so it's a combination of things. So it's not just one person who has that authority. There's there's processes within government that they've got to follow, because this is an agreement that has to endure for decades, and so it's not just there are checks and balances within government to ensure that you can't just have one person driving something. So it goes through the approvals process. The commitments that we've had, you've seen from the commentary that's been in our releases from the Minister of Finance regarding the timing in April. So can't say too much more than that. We have had some false starts in the past where we have agreed to it. We've agreed on the timing based on ours and government's understanding that all the terms had been settled. We then had the external lawyers who, off their own bat, would open up further issues that had already been agreed upon, which then results in another round and sometimes several rounds of discussions to settle something that we'd already settled, and this happened with the January one. But the agreement has now been signed off by both parties. There's no more changes to it, and now there's an internal process within government before signing. But that's the majority of that is now completed, and it's scheduled to be signed in April. Whether that is missed by 1 or 2 days, that's more of a kind of scheduling thing rather than anything untoward. You've seen the commentary from government. They want to complete it. We want to complete it, and it's on the way. And that's why we have had the confidence now to move ahead with Musuma and going forward.